What happens when a legendary actor refuses to play along with a talk show host who thinks she can steamroll anyone? Buckle up because you're about to witness one of the most jaw-dropping on-air confrontations in daytime television history. Joy Behar thought she could corner Gary Oldman with her usual tactics, but she had no idea she was about to meet her match. By the end of this episode, Joy would storm off her own show, leaving millions of viewers stunned and her co-hosts scrambling to pick up the pieces. And trust me, you won't want to miss a second of this. It all began like any other Tuesday morning on The View. The studio buzzed with its usual pre-show energy. Makeup artists adding the final touches, producers running last-minute notes, and hosts sipping coffee as they prepared for another lively broadcast. Gary Oldman was scheduled for the second segment, promoting his latest film, a gritty drama exploring corruption in local politics. What should have been a routine interview was about to turn into television gold. Joy Behar settled into her spot at the table, coffee in hand, armed with questions she thought would guarantee a headline W-worthy moment. She had done her homework, or so she believed. Gary Oldman's career spanned decades of transformative performances, yet Joy had decided to focus on something entirely different. Some offhand remarks Oldman had made months earlier in a British interview about American politics. As the show returned from commercial, Whoopi Goldberg introduced their guest with her trademark smoothness. Gary Oldman walked onto the set with quiet confidence, waving to the audience before taking his seat. The applause was warm and genuine. Everyone in the room could feel they were in the presence of true talent. "Gary Oldman, everyone," Whoopi announced, "thank you so much for being here. We're excited to talk about your new film. Thank you for having me." "It's a pleasure to be here," Oldman replied, his calm English accent setting a composed tone. The interview began innocently enough. Whoopi asked about his preparation for the role, and Oldman spoke eloquently about the research he had done, the people he had met, and the importance of telling authentic stories about power and corruption. The other hosts joined in with thoughtful questions about his process and the film's relevance. Then came the moment that would change everything. Joy leaned forward, that familiar glint in her eyes signaling trouble. "Gary, I have to ask you something," she began, her voice taking on that prosecutorial tone regular viewers knew well. "A few months ago, you made some comments about American voters that I found pretty concerning. You suggested that people here don't really understand the issues they're voting on." The studio went silent. Oldman's face remained calm, but anyone paying attention could notice the slightest tightening around his eyes. "I'm not sure I follow," he replied evenly. "Could you be more specific about what comments you're referring to?" Joy, clearly prepared, pulled out a sheet of paper. "You said, and I quote, that American political discourse has become so polarized that voters on both sides often make decisions based on emotion rather than facts. That sounds pretty condescending to me." Oldman paused, measured, deliberate. "Well, Joy, if you're going to quote me, perhaps you should provide the full context. That interview was about the responsibility of artists to present complex issues in nuanced ways, not to make sweeping judgments about entire populations." "But you did say it," Joy pressed, her voice rising slightly. "I'm not denying anything," Oldman responded, calm but firm. "What I am saying is that taking a small portion of a much longer conversation and presenting it without context is exactly the kind of thing that contributes to the problem you're concerned about." The tension in the studio was electric. The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to intervene or let it play out.
"That makes you uncomfortable. Perhaps the problem isn't with my answers." Sarah Haynes tentatively tried to step in. "Maybe we should take a commercial break." "No," Joy cut her off sharply, spinning toward her colleague. "We're not taking a break. I want everyone to see this. I want them to see how these Hollywood elites really feel about regular Americans." Finally, Oldman stood. His full height and commanding presence made Joy's theatrics look even more unhinged by comparison. "Joy," he said, his voice slicing through her hysteria. "I've spent my career playing characters, studying human nature, understanding what drives people to behave as they do. Right now, I'm watching someone so desperate to be right, so terrified of being challenged that she's willing to embarrass herself and her colleagues on national television rather than admit a mistake. I didn't make any mistake, Joy screamed, spittle flying as she pointed at him. The mistake was booking you on this show in the first place. Perhaps, Oldman said quietly, but not for the reasons you think. The calmness in his tone seemed to break something inside Joy. She spun to the producers off camera. Get him out of here, she demanded, as if he were a criminal. I'm not doing this anymore. Either he goes or I go. Whoopi stepped in, trying to restore some semblance of order. Joy, let's just calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Joy shot back, whirling on her longtime colleague. Are you taking his side, too? Is everyone here going to let this man come on our show and disrespect me? Oldman addressed one of the producers quietly. I think it's best if I leave. Clearly, this isn't productive for anyone. Oh, so now you're the victim. Joy laughed bitterly. Run away, Gary. Go back to your British friends and tell them how awful Americans were to you. I'm sure they'll love that story. Oldman paused while gathering his things and looked at Joy one final time. Joy, I came here to talk about a film that deals with corruption and the abuse of power. I had no idea I'd get such a vivid demonstration of both. That was the breaking point. Get out, Joy screamed, her voice echoing through the studio. Security, I want him removed. The absurdity of calling security on a guest for simply defending himself wasn't lost on anyone. The audience began to murmur and boo, unsure if they were reacting to Oldman's departure or Joy's meltdown. Gary Oldman walked calmly toward the exit, stopping only to shake hands with Whoopi and the other hosts, deliberately ignoring Joy's continued ranting. This is exactly what's wrong with this country. Joy continued, shouting even as Oldman disappeared backstage. Anna Navarro, who had remained silent throughout, finally spoke up. Joy, maybe you should. Maybe I should what? Joyce spun around, hair disheveled, makeup smudged. Maybe I should apologize for standing up to someone who thinks he's better than us. The studio was chaos. The audience buzzed with confused chatter. Co-hosts looked at each other in disbelief. Producers scrambled frantically, trying to salvage the show. Whoopi Goldberg stepped forward, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had navigated countless television crises. But even she knew this was a moment that would go down in daytime TV history. One of those rare, unforgettable clashes where egos, pride, and composure collide live on camera. Joy, we need to get back to the show, someone called. We have a live audience. Cameras are rolling, but Joy was beyond caring about the show, the audience, or her professional reputation. Her chest heaved, her hands shook with rage, and her eyes were locked on the empty spot where Gary Oldman had been sitting just moments before. I can't do this anymore, Joy whispered, her voice eerily low, somehow more unsettling than her earlier screaming. I can't sit here and pretend that what just happened was okay. Sarah Haynes approached cautiously. Joy, honey, let's just take a breath. Joy H.